Good.
Board members and staff. We'd like to go ahead and get started at 6:07 and take a quick roll call, if we may. We're also short one member. She'll be here in a few minutes, and another one is going to be absent. So let's begin by taking roll call. I'm present, Steve Sullivan, Julie Hupp, the vice president.
Present.
And Sandra Romero.
Present.
She's present. And Dr. Neil Canby he'll be here later. And Ms. Jamie Dryden is on her way, and she'll be here later. Tammy Peterson and Brianna Torres. Dr. Ramirez. Right. Not to leave you out there, Dr. Ramirez. Anyway, so having everybody is accounted for, let's move on to the adoption of the agenda. Do I have a motion?
I so move.
Is there a second?
I'll second the motion.
Okay. All those in favor of adopting the agenda, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, say nay. That motion carries 3-0 in favor of adopting the motion. So that's 302. Any cards for public comment for closed session? There are no cards for a closed session. Moving on to the next point is we'll now adjourn to closed session, where we're going to discuss the superintendent's evaluation, potential litigation, and personnel as authorized by the Government Code 54957. And we'll be back at approximately 6:30-ish. We'll see. I'd like to announce that we're back from our closed session at 6:55. We ran a little bit longer than what we thought, where we discussed potential litigation and personnel needs coming forward. And I'd like to report back that no action was taken. With that, we're going to go ahead and begin with our official opening with the Pledge of Allegiance. And so if everyone please stand and join me in the Pledge of Allegiance. Right hand over heart. Ready, begin. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. With that, let's see. Our first item after that is the minutes. Can I get a motion to adopt the minutes from our last meeting?
I move to adopt the January 16th meeting minutes.
Is there a second?
I'll second.
Been moved and seconded. Is there any discussion or comments about the minutes? Hearing none, all those in favor of adopting the minutes say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed say nay. That motion carries 401 in favor. And I should probably at this point in time, let's see, everyone was here. Ms. Dryden has arrived, and so that needs to be noted just prior to our going into closed session. So that's where we're at. And Dr. Canby is not present yet. Item 7, audience to address the Board of Trustees. Is there any comments? Comment cards? None. With that, we'll then move on to the superintendent's report, and I'll turn the time over to Dr. Ramirez.
Well, good evening, Board President, Mr. Sullivan, trustees. I'm going to go ahead and work through our superintendent's report, or my superintendent's report. Start at the top, please. All right. As I have in the past, would like to begin with a few highlight events. This past month, we held our Mesa Spelling Bee that happened on Friday, January 24th. As the board is aware, that's an annual event. It was really exciting. This is grades 4 through 8. And this year we had at least 2 4th graders that, or there were 2 4th graders who made it into the final cohort, which was really exciting. All that to say, we have our winners here, and there will be an alternate that will, the winner and the alternate will both be available to compete at the county spelling bee. So really excited for our top 3. I also wanted to express appreciation for Mr. DiMaria, who came out of retirement to help us not proctor, but facilitate the spelling bee. And so anyway, it was just a really nice time. We had this very room full of families, supportive, and we were able to broadcast all that to our classrooms. So it was a really nice event. Moving ahead, I wanted to also share that, just highlight a couple of events here. Full steam ahead. I always like to highlight their efforts in creating additional learning opportunities for students. And here on Saturday, February 8th, recently, they took 52 students out to the Los Angeles Natural History Museum.
The Natural History
Yes, the
Museum.
Natural History Museum. And it's a trip that has actually been several months in the making. I was really glad to see it come through, and just a great opportunity for kids. We've been in that complex in the past with the California Science Center, but at this time around, it was the Natural History Museum, and just they've really done a lot in those exhibits to keep them fresh and keep them engaging. Some major renovations have taken place, so I was glad to see that they had that opportunity and that so many families decided to participate. Moving on, middle school showcase. This just occurred this past Thursday. We have now had this event several years running. It's proven to be a good opportunity both to welcome our families, even though the vast majority of our families are transitioning from 5th into 6th. It's still a significant milestone for our families. Still a significant change in routine, change in age span. And so we want to help families and students make that transition with us. It provides us with a great opportunity to introduce our staff, to give them a feel for what's coming in middle school, the subtle changes that sometimes our kids experience a little bit more than others, as well as to welcome some families that will be joining us in the coming school year as they transition from their current elementary school to middle school. So it's a great opportunity. It's fun, good community building exercise, families talking to each other and getting to know each other anew. The weather didn't help us this time around, but still we got well over 50, I believe, families that there were for sure 50 that RSVP'd, and we got a vast majority of them who did in fact attend. So thank you to the staff for making those experiences possible in the classroom, for presenting to our student presenters who shared and have shared their experiences being middle school students and offering what a middle school experience at Mesa take or looks like for future students.
Of the 50 families, how many were new to Mesa or not currently enrolled in Mesa?
There were about 3 that were actually present. There are several others that were not able to attend, but there were 3 present. All right, moving on. I just wanted to make note of our enrollment campaign. I've been sharing this with the board in writing, but we are very much in our efforts to put ourselves out there to the community, to bring families to a greater understanding of who we are. We use social media this time around. This year, last couple of years have not quite been that way, but this year we have advertised in the VC Reporter and in the Camarillo Acorn. And we do have a print ad which Ms. Torres was very kind enough to secure for me. Here in the VC Reporter, looks like this, a half-page ad. And you can see there what the reach is. It's something a little bit new for us, or not new, but a practice that we have established, more so because we want to have an opportunity to have more of our families or potential families understand who we are and the program offerings that we share. So we're looking forward to this season and being able to show our families, present and future, a little bit about who we are. And here's just an overall rundown of events, not an exhaustive list. School tours are occurring. We've had a number of families who've signed up for those. There's a link on our website for interested families. The middle school family showcase was last week. Our Tiger Cup family night will be this coming Thursday. And we have our open house, which is another opportunity to invite present and future families happening on April 30th from 6 to 7:30. All right, just a few items on facilities and operations. We have received our school bus, our first one. We are expecting another one here this week, and that will be a temporary arrangement until we secure an 88 vehicle expected to come in October. Last week on Thursday, we had our drivers trained on that bus, on that vehicle, with another training coming up this coming week. So you'll see that this is our vehicle, and it's here, it's real. It's been several years in the making, and so it's been a long push, but glad that we're making this shift. And in the next coming weeks, we should see that 3 of our vehicles in a small fleet are 3 years and under. And that's a huge, huge transition to where we were 5, 6 years ago. So very, very happy to have this take place. Our drivers, it's a shift for them, but it's one that they were very open to. And they really did extremely well. So I want to congratulate them for embracing the change, for being open to it. And there's some additional pictures there that I shared on social media that just represent their efforts and their commitment to staying current and to embracing the new vehicles that we're getting. And then lastly,
Are they
attendance.
are they already in use, or is it already in use?
No, not yet, not yet. We're still finalizing some documentation and working with our existing mechanics to be able to get them fully trained so that they can conduct the inspections and have everything mechanically sound and safe for travel. But we're getting very close, And then lastly, attendance. We continue to pursue a goal of 96 and above. Fell a little bit short this January. There's been a lot of flu, cold, and other challenges out there that have definitely set us back, but we still continue to hold relatively strong in our attendance, and speak more about that a little later. But for now, I'll conclude with just a few upcoming events, including our campus tour for 8th grade families, our science fair coming up on March 11th, a jogathon on the 21st, and spring break 7th through the 18th. And with that, I'll conclude my superintendent's report.
Okay, any comments or questions? Hearing none, let's move on to
buses?
correspondence. Oh, I'm sorry.
I was just
Sorry
going
about
to ask
that,
a
Ms.
quick question. Just a minor one. The school buses, do they sound like a Tesla, or what do they sound like?
It's a good question. I actually have not ridden in one, believe it or not. The drivers took it out on the road, And, but they're very, very silent, very quiet. And apparently the road noise is much diminished. And certainly the general noise is much diminished because there's no internal combustion engine. So, yes, looking forward to, as soon as we can, inviting the board out for a little bit of an experience here on one of these routes. If everybody is, or if anybody is so inclined, just because it is a different experience. But our drivers spoke very positively about the drive. And these vehicles are also equipped with air conditioning, and that is different than our other vehicles. So just our overall experience in those vehicles should be even better than what it's been historically.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, with that, let's move on to board members' reports and communications. Any correspondence? I'm sorry, what? We have the first interim report for the Golden Valley Charter School. It's been received, and the Avid correspondence. Any comments on any of those items?
I guess just that the 2024-2025 first interim report met the current and 2-year obligations that it's required to. So it's in a positive standing.
So, and I have not read the Avid correspondence. Appreciate. We do have it. Okay. Any other board member reports or communications? I was kind of out of the mix. That's why I missed some of this because there's a new Sullivan in the family, and so we were out of town to go visit the new grandson. And that being the case, I kind of missed some of this, and I missed last week's activities at the VCCBSA meeting. And so I don't have anything to report on that one.
I did want to make note of that since you're bringing that up. It was on my list here, but just wanted to share in front of the board that Mr. Sullivan was recognized for 20 years of service as a trustee. So thank you, Mr. Sullivan, for that. We'll be receiving your recognition here soon.
I got it.
Oh, did you get it already?
Yeah.
Okay, good.
One of the trustees from the Pleasant Valley School District that I've known since I was a child.
Good.
He picked it up and gave it to me.
Good. Well, thank you so much for that. And I really, just on behalf of all of us as staff, past and present, just thank you very much for 20 years of service, for your representation, and for being such a great ambassador to the community and from the community. And for being a wonderful steward of this place for so long. Thank you.
My pleasure. Otherwise, I wouldn't be doing it, right? So, any other reports or communications? If not, let's move on to interests and concerns. Anything?
I just wanted to bring up, now that it's getting towards spring, we will hopefully be doing something again for Earth Day. So just as a reminder, it's April 22nd, and it does land on a school day after we return from break. And so if there's any interest and, support from me for a school activity, just let me know.
That's April 22nd. I'm all in favor of that. When Dr. Ramirez was giving his report about enrollment and things that we're now advertising in a couple of the local papers, that I want to express my appreciation for what you've done, such as Earth Day, the Christmas parade, and helping us present ourselves out in the community, saying there's this little school out here that you should know about, that's an important thing. And so I thank you for that. The mock trial is another big thing where we're out there and we're involved in a lot of things, and it's important that, pardon me? Battle of the Books. Yeah. all these things are very important to the school and for its growth and maintenance as we look to the future. That's how we've been able to maintain and be stable through these years. Like, there's been a number of times where we've had a declining budget, not necessarily declining enrollment, but there's been a decline in the budget, and we've been able to weather those storms because we're such a highly desirable school, that people want to come to Mesa. And trying to find that balance has always been a challenge. And if we keep doing these things, I think we can continue to weather the storms that are going to be in front of us. And there's many facets to that. Part of it is being involved in all these things, and putting it out there in the public that we do exist and that we're a desirable place to be. So thank you one and all who have helped contribute to that. And Earth Day is certainly one of those. Okay. Anything else? All right. We'll move on then to the consent agenda. And with that, we're going to recognize the entry of Dr. Canby to our meeting. Before we move into that, we just got to board members' consents or comments and concerns. Anything you wish to bring up, Dr. Canby?
Not this time.
Not at this time. Okay. And we're certainly glad that you're here. With that, we're moving to the consent agenda. Do I have a motion to adopt the consent agenda?
I so move.
And is there a second?
I'll second
I'll
the motion.
second.
Any questions or comments regarding the consent agenda?
I did, and I apologize for not asking in advance, but there was a question I had regarding the purchase orders. In particular, there's a PO change for deferred maintenance fund. So I was curious as to why it was being brought up, and like there's about a $30,000 difference. Very last thing on the a little bit. Yeah. That 142 versus the 172. My fault, I didn't. My only question on this is
Any other questions on the consent agenda? So basically what we're asking, there's roughly a $30,000 addition that on that one particular PO for deferred maintenance. Is that a correct understanding?
that's
That's what it appears to be. And what caused the change is what we're trying to seek. Correct?
It's a significant amount.
Right.
Sometimes it feels slightly.
Here. Oops. Roughly 11% difference. Pardon me? There's the Chargers. Now that we know the subject matter of the PO,
Yeah, so there was actually.
that was like, we talked about that last month.
So in short, there were some change orders that actually descaled the project for the charger installation. So there were some component parts that we actually did not need, that actually dropped that number down to the 146 number, or can you zoom in on it?
The initial PO was for $197,000. And it was reduced to $176,000.
Right.
What was the first number? 194. And then
That was the original award, the 194. Mhm.
Right. So,
And then it,
Part of that fund, so right, because it's mentioning in the fund and then it's showing a different number of 142. So it went down, it started 198, went to 176, which is what's shown on the left.
mhm.
But then it has a change of amount on the right. So what's the importance of that, or how does that tie in? Wonder if it's like another part of it's not a specific deal like to a contractor, right? It's
There actually is a specific PO because it's listed on the left column, that number that you see there, the zero.
so it's just the description's not included.
Right, the description is not included, correct. Right, so in this case, it
It was a change order, and in this case, it was a change order downward,
Yeah.
as a result of some components that did not need to be installed.
I remember that now. Okay. So it's in our favor, and what we're seeing is you're looking at the significant change amount at the 142 at the right.
It's just
Yeah.
it's a significant change. So,
Yeah.
When I was going, oh, it's funds. And so I was just curious what that was. And I was like, the charger is definitely part of that, because that was a reduction of, $20,000.
Right.
But that's what that was, 176 from 198. So it's-
194.
And so ultimately, though, it just kind of cleared this up is that we approved a certain amount for the Chargers, and they came out under, and then there was a change order that raised that a little bit, but we're still net less than what we were. But it came out of that fund, and therefore that fund was reduced by that amount. Is that a fair representation of what we're trying to see here on that report? That's what I'm hearing. Is that what you're hearing?
I
Yeah.
hear that's the idea of what's
Right.
going on here. But the
Right.
numbers aren't giving us to
Yeah.
that, so that's my curiosity, and we can table that if need be, if it's something that requires further investigation. When it is in our favor, it's a reduction,
Right.
but I'd like to know more about it.
She'd like you, clear understanding is good. So we'll tell you what, let's Okay. With regards to, was there anything else on, right now, we're talking about the consent agenda as its entirety. Right now, item A, purchase orders. What was the item number on that purchase order? Is there a ledger item that we can refer to, like, 03250043? We'd like to pull that out and come back and have that reported on in the future, either no later than next meeting. Is that fair? Right. Well, that's what I'm saying. By the end of next weekend. Pardon me? Oh, we have an answer now.
Fix it out, because we reduced the purchase order by $17,788. But we'd already made a payment of $124,974.40.
So when those two are added together, the 152.
Okay, so great. Any other comments or questions regarding the consent agenda? Hearing none, all those in favor of adopting the consent agenda, say aye. Aye. Any opposed, say nay. Sandra, I didn't see you vote, and I couldn't hear you. There, she's in. In order so I don't get an echo, I don't have my speaker turned on. And so if you can make some sort of motion, then I'll turn the speaker on for that. So that motion carries. Did she? Great. So that carries 5-0 in favor. The consent agenda. Okay. Moving on. An information item, a discussion of the Mason Union School District mid-year update for the 2024-2025 LCAP. Dr. Ramirez.
Thank you, both President Sullivan. What you have here is a mid-year report on the 2024-2025 LCAP. It attempts to provide a high-level view
of the goals, actions, and some metrics that we are tracking. Let me situate myself here. So starting with the first slide, that is the goals. Those are the 4 goals of the LCAP and how they map out to state priorities. You see there 1 through 4 enumerated. The next slide pertains to just the use of multiple measures. Not all measures are actually represented on this particular slide deck. There's, for lack of a better way of putting it, where there is commonality amongst most grade levels. That's effectively what's represented here. And the focal point is always on these population of students. Of course, it's all students, but with a closer eye toward the success of these particular students. Moving ahead, this slide just represents the again, a high level or overview of the actions associated with the first goal, which is to ensure high academic achievement through rigorous student-centered learning experiences for all students. Just representing those 4 bullets. One is a major focal point for us these last 2 to 3 years now has been the implementation and expansion of AVID across grade levels. We began with grades 5 through 8, and then expanded to grades 3, 4, with a future expansion into grades TK2 for this coming school year. More so, it's an effort to continue to use common ways and common approaches to student success, whether it's through their writing, through their critical thinking, their organization. These are all ways of helping students develop the aptitude and skill sets to be able to engage with learning. Our early childhood education component continues to be very strong, particularly in the area of literacy. We have really spent a long a lot of resources and effort building out our learning support team, including some very specific staffing positions, which continue on into the school year. Additionally, we continue to work through our full steam ahead, our after-school program. We really are trying to focus on reaching more students, and I'll have more concrete information in a couple of slides, but we are unique in the sense that different than many other schools, we serve all the way up to middle school grades. Not all school districts have that available, but we do. We operate in grades K through 8. And that's been a huge focal point of ours in terms of continuing to weave together the experiences of the school day with our after-school programming. And then lastly, we are very much centering on the implementation of a new curriculum to Mesa, which is illustrative mathematics in grades K-5. So we are several months into that implementation, and that is a major focal point, which we intend to carry into this coming year as well, thinking of it as a multi-year implementation. In goal 2, wanted to just, this one is about maintaining collaborative culture of meaningful partnerships. Our partnerships, the board has seen a number of agreements come forward over the last several years. We have a very strong association with VCOE. Our TUPE program has actually been very helpful, particularly to our counseling program and by way of substance abuse in particular. We are really focusing on college and career development, particularly in the upper grades heading into middle school. There's a couple of items up for approval on this agenda that speak to that. And the goal here is to be able to expose and provide more clarity for our students as early as possible, but definitely in middle school, about the existence of different community colleges, CSU and UCs, just in our geographic area, in county and in Santa Barbara County or LA County, to name a few. So this has definitely been a focal point for us. And there's another component later today or in this agenda, which speaks to that, being more of a full process where we educate our students on college and career options. And then lastly, on this one, an expansion of co-curricular and experiential learning, all that to say field trips, exposure to college and higher ed. That is something that has gone on at Mesa for a number of years that we want to continue to keep current. Goal number 3, actually on that front, there is this has been an exciting partnership with the Morito Foundation. Mrs. Spillane has had that as part of our science program for a number of years. Then to this year, there's some very specific efforts around becoming, citizen scientists and how exploration within your community is really important by way of understanding the biodiversity that exists here in Ventura County alone. Goal number 3, this one speaks to safe and learning, welcoming and safe learning environments with social emotional development for all students. I continue to point to the staffing of our school counselor. Prior to last year, we did not have a school counselor position. That is something that came by way of came to us this past year and into this one. And I can only speak great things about Miss Inda. She has been fantastic in being able to connect with students and really connecting not just with them, but to get them to connect with one another. This year, she has really edged more and more into the college and career development, particularly for middle school students. We continue to contract with VCOE around for lack of a better word, a social worker that continues to work with our students and provides them social emotional support and counseling, school-based counseling. And then, of course, we have our psychologist position, which continues to be staffed couple of years ago, we increased that from 60% to 80%. We've been able to sustain that over the last several years. I also wanted to call out our school clubs and activities. There are a number of them, and they've only been growing over the last several years. So it's not my intent to diminish anybody or any group, but I wanted to call out CJSF, which is a very large group following and participation. Our lunch clubs, all sorts of different clubs, Pokemon, Dungeons and Dragons, all sorts of different activities for students. Student leadership, mock trial, to name a few. And these are just ways for students to connect with each other, to connect with the staff, and connect actually with some of our parent volunteers. So this is, just all great things for us to continue to sustain. And then goal number 4, fostering a culture of professional growth, namely our implementation of Avid in grades 3-8. Focus on organization, note-taking, particularly in the upper grades and in middle school. And we're continuing to focus on more and more rigor and complexity of tasks, to put it easily, because we recognize that our students are capable and benefit from being challenged across the board. We have our implementation of illustrative mathematics in grades K-5, and that professional development this year has consisted of 3 days, and it will continue into 25-26. I'll speak more to that a little bit later. But and then we're currently exploring more and more special education inclusion models so that we can support our students with special needs within a general education setting. Moving on, I wanted to just, this one is a high-level view, and I won't go through all of it, but I'll just make mention of a few major trends. Next slide, please. The top academic speaks to the areas of focus this year for our grade level and grade level spans. Within each grade level, there are very specific areas of focus and goals that they have, but this is just a high-level view. We continue to employ the support of our learning support, 3 staff members that have put together and combined very neatly with our teachers, our classroom teachers, particularly in grades TK2, but really 3-5 as well, and into 6-8. Just looks very different in our 6-8. But you see there the numbers, over 106 students receiving a version of academic support, with 77 pull-out means outside of the classroom, pushing in means students receiving support in the classroom. And then in 6-8, there's a 7th period class, part of our schedule, that allows a smaller group of students to receive more targeted support in both math and English. Attendance is where I think we've made the biggest strides, and that's so foundational for us. So you see there, we have actually, that note says we are down 55 students. So the 90 students is a decrease of 55 from this year, this time last year. So hope not to confuse the board with that. And I think just a lot of effort has gone into that. Ms. Inda, Ms. Kuklinski, our front office, they've automated a lot of notices just to make attendance a big priority for ourselves. On the behavioral side, I'm particularly just impressed and heartened by the positive referrals that continue to flow from our staff, catching students doing well and building community. And the disciplinary referrals are down from year prior, and to date, we've not had to suspend outside of school. And it's an important distinction and note from where we were a few years ago. That's not to suggest that there haven't been disciplinary consequences, simply has not reached that point or that level. And then the after-school program and counseling data, our after-school program, you see the numbers there by grade span. So we are serving well over 100 students in our after-school program, which is, out of enrollment of approximately 600, is a significant percentage of our students. As we turn our attention to metrics, I wanted to just make mention of a couple of things. One, where these metrics lie is in local data. And I just chose 2 which speak to multiple grade levels, not just one. There are many other metrics that teachers use at the classroom level, but this one is common to all. So both of these derive from our subscription and our assessments on Renaissance Learning. So I'll just go ahead and review these broadly. The first chart is on the form or in the realm of literacy or English language arts. You see the grades listed from top to bottom in the far left column. And CASP, that is last year's performance for that particular cohort. So for example, in third grade, they've not assessed. That you would see in fourth grade when they were third graders last year. So you see the beginning of year 2024, fall, and now winter. Overall, I can say that at least in the realm of English language arts, there appears to be a more positive trend from the baseline established either last year during CASP or this year. They are not the same assessment, to be sure. They're not one for one, but you would want to see a positive trend line and consistency, ideally, of course, moving forward and climbing as the year wears on. And right now we are past the midway mark as far as the school year is concerned. The winter administration, it was about at the midpoint. So you see that those trend lines are favorable, if you will, with more of the school year obviously to come.
Can I ask a question before we move on?
Sure.
For the first grade, am I reading it right that in the fall and in the winter, is it 8 students and then 9 students? And of those 8 students, like they got 100% on the ELA?
They met that threshold, and that's a good question. The reason that you see smaller numbers there is because there's 2 versions of the test, and I didn't want to complicate things. But the early lit assessment is one different, and it's only exclusive to students who are emerging readers. So once they meet a certain threshold, a certain raw score, then they migrate over to this assessment.
So that was more like a pass, but not pass fail, but you met a threshold, there's one's 100%.
Correct. And once you meet that threshold, we see that our kids who are at that stage of their literacy show up on this particular report, right? Whereas the rest of them, particularly in TKK, haven't reached those levels. So we measure that differently, and I didn't include that in this particular report. But for example, where you look at second grade, that also may be the case with the number counts. And that's why the number counts were included there as well. With the next slide, this is math. And here I will say that just being very candid and frank about it, the results here are much more challenged and much more challenging. You see the trend lines. There's more inconsistency from one administration to the next. That's part of it. The other part of it is also, just speaking to what may be under the surface on this. Mathematics, there's a greater tendency, different than literacy, for it to build upon itself year over year, and for the mathematical task and thinking to become more challenging as you go along. If that foundation isn't quite set or students aren't at a level of mastery, it becomes harder to address that in subsequent years. So we are now seeing several grade levels in particular, three through 6 in particular, but the other grade levels as well, where we are not at the levels that we all want to see. Just the simple fact. That is not for lack of effort. That's not for lack of diligence. It's not for lack of strategic ways of addressing this in the classroom and outside of it. It's just a challenging problem that we are trying to really get to the heart of. If you look at the grades prior in second and third, there is a little bit more optimism in that regard, but it is more challenging as those grades continue, mostly because of that tendency to build on itself. And if those solid skills are not set, they're not fully developed, there continues to be struggle down the line. One thing that I can say is that, again, going back to our teacher teams, they have really embraced and done a diligent job of implementing the curriculum, the new curriculum. It's been with us since August. They are making strides and making sure that they understand and effectively implement it. And one other thing with that is they are using now also more specific reports to target more specific skills, both in literacy, but speaking on this in mathematics. What are those core foundational skills, whether it's multiplication facts, division, and so on, as we talk about those core skills that students need to master. So this will be our focal point because the results are not what we would want them to be, and we have not seen that really take off in a way that we feel we can see that trend line a little differently than in literacy, where we have our systems more well embedded. So go ahead and pause there and allow the board an opportunity for comments and questions.
Let me just start with a really high level one. The years are different on this than ELD. Is that intentional? Or
I'm
should
sorry,
they
that was a
Okay,
misprint on my end. These are 23, 24.
okay, perfect.
So I will
That's
adjust.
what I assumed. And I
Sorry,
guess,
24, 25. My apologies.
Previous- Yeah, so CASP is.
Your CAS would be 2024. So I do apologize for that.
And then
just give me another, so beginning of year, because there's beginning of year and then fall and then winter. And so is there a big difference of time between beginning of year? Is that literally like the first week of school? They just kind of check where they are at?
Within the first couple of weeks of school, yes.
And so I guess what's, sad for me, I'll say, because I love math, is that the numbers aren't where we want them to be. And that's something that we are working on. I know we had special teacher and service days that focused on math. And so we are focusing on math. But what I'm also seeing is that in every grade, it's declining with time. So at the beginning of the year, we start higher. And as the year progresses, we go lower.
Mhm.
And so it sounds like that's something that you guys are aware of and working on, because like you say, math is foundational and it builds off itself. But I think that's definitely where we need to focus.
Some of the timing of the assessment comes into play. We have a break. Students are less, let's just say less engaged, generally speaking, with learning over that break. But that can only explain that to a certain extent. That's not really the full story. So that may help explain a bit of why that decline occurs. But of course, sorry again.
It doesn't occur on Helen.
No, it doesn't. It doesn't. Agreed. And I think that this is just me speaking to it based on my understanding and conversations with teachers. I think that there's a mastery that has not taken hold in mathematics that makes it more challenging as the years wear on to be able to build upon that. And it's not that there are no absolutes. There's not the lack of knowledge. It's simply not set and foundational enough to the point where you can build on it year over year, and it rears itself ahead. So for example, if as a learner, if your ability to have your multiplication and division facts automated is not there, the struggle is going to be very real with fractions, because now you're looking at both forms in a different way. So again, these are the things that we are grappling with, that we are really taking a hard look at. As I mentioned, this will be a long-term commitment from us, both to continue to support our teachers in the teaching of math and to look at resources that can help accelerate the math learning. Where it exists in high levels, but we want that for more of our students. And so that is something that will continue to be a focal point. And one of the reasons that I mentioned that our implementation cycle for just the curriculum alone needs to be beyond this year. And it's already a commitment for next.
I have a couple of questions with regards to this, because I have something similar, but I'm going to ask it in a slightly different way. And I'm trying to figure out if I want to do the preface with what I want to say or conclude, let me preface. About 15 years ago, I taught a cohort of students that were about 11 years old. And there was a whole generation of kids that were lost because they were, at that time, the thing was whole language. And these kids were taught whole language, K through 5. And they were taught only to memorize words, no phonics was involved. And the way that kids were taught, and we lost a whole generation because they could not read, period. It sounded like a great thing. Every school district in the nation went to whole language and it flopped big time. With that kind of in the background, my question is, what can we do as a board to help the students have success in English and language arts and in math and in science? I think that's what our overall goal is here as a board, is we want to support the students being successful in every education group that there is. And I believe that that's the administration's goal as well. And are we failing the students as the board and not giving proper direction to the administration and or to the staff? Is it not following through? One of the things I kind of picked up on is this new curriculum. How much is new curriculum involved with perhaps these test scores? And the last thing that I want to do is to go back and saying, okay, we got new curriculum. Is it that we've been having new math since I was a child, right? And it seems like every year there's new math and new different creative way of trying to teach math. And sometimes I think we gum up the works by not being consistent. And so, are we convinced that the curriculum that we have is going to be successful in teaching what needs to be done to help these students go forward? How are we constantly reevaluating the curriculum? And I'm also hearing that the teachers are learning a new curriculum as well as teaching a new curriculum all at the same time. And how much of an effective that is, and how we need to have an honest assessment as how good is the curriculum, even though we've adopted one. Is it the appropriate one now that we've got some experience under our belts? That's kind of where I'm going with this. And I think that's what my fellow board members are looking for, is we want successful students. We want them to be able to be prepared and to do well. And the teachers, and we don't want to handcuff the teachers either. And are we doing something wrong as a board with this process? What can we do better?
Yeah, let me give you an answer, and I don't have I won't give you a definitive. Too early to tell when it comes to the implementation of this particular curriculum. We know that it is highly rated. We know that it's conceptually sound. It's too early and too soon for me to give you an explanation. We've only been with it for a good number of months. I will tell you the introduction of something new would not explain these numbers, right? But certainly everything's on the table. I think the one thing that I would advocate for is allowing us to just continue to stay a course, not with no adjustments, not with no acknowledgement of what we see in front of us, which are results that none of us want to see, but more so to say, to avoid an overreaction, which is to say, we're now going to go completely in a different direction and expect that that new direction will yield immediate results. That's not simply how it works, in my professional experience. So your commitment to this process, your commitment to the things that we've attempted is significant. You authorize services, continue to allow us the opportunity to continue to implement. And by the way, that's what you see in the literacy side, right? We are seeing in the lower grades, I would say, and it's perhaps too premature, that some of that is overlapping into some of the success with mathematics, but we're not all the way there. We're not seeing a correlation. So I would say, let's stay the course. Let me continue to work with staff, Ms. Kuklinski, with our teacher leadership to see what we can do to continue to strengthen our programs overall and to see where mathematics can be strengthened, both by all the things that we've already done on the literacy side, through Avid, and also just with mathematics. Think of it like a Venn diagram or circles that overlap. They all help each other, but they're not one for one. Mathematics is uniquely different. And so I think that that's definitely in our radar, and it is for a variety of reasons. And that's why I made it a point to try to pursue a different approach to teaching of mathematics. So I don't think that and time will tell, of course, time will tell. But I think right now we've established good continuity on the literacy side that we're seeing create a different trend. We're trying to replicate that in full on the mathematics side.
Okay, I accept that. My only caveat is that to me, every student is precious. And I don't want to significantly harm a student's progress during a school year if we can do something about it. And I'm willing to stay the course, but not at the expense of harming a student. And that's my position, is that every student is important and their success is important because they are going to be the people who are going to be sitting at this table in the future. And that's my expectation. And I want them to have the tools that they're going to need, going forward. And if this is the right thing, that's fine. We need a feedback loop if not. I think we're making good choices here, but if we're not, I need to know about it too, right? And so that's where we're at. And I'm not saying that we have knee-jerk reactions. That's certainly not it. But I'm not in favor of stalling things for our personal benefit. Okay. Anything else? Okay. Did I say anything out of line for you guys?
So in conclusion, and you've already seen this, and we've been spending a lot of our time with attendance, and we will continue to, just because it's such an important matter. Having our kids in school on a regular and consistent basis, it's such a significant indicator of success that I wanted to make sure that I placed a lot of attention on it. We've seen how that has helped us, and we continue to make that a priority. So with that said, I'm going to go ahead and conclude. There is an accompanying report which has more detail in it, and in certain instances reiterates what's already here. I'm sorry?
I ask high-level questions on
Yes.
that. There's basically columns that tell you if something's been fully implemented or partially implemented, and then there's dollar figures letting you know what the budget for that was and what our mid-year expenditures are. For something that's fully implemented, and we have not used the budget allowed, does that just mean that we haven't spent that much yet to date, but we will by the time we get there? And also there's some things that talk about being implemented, but having zero expenditures. So if we could just give a little how the category it's in, fully versus partially, ties into the money side, high level.
Right. So it's many of the things that you articulated. One, this is the mid-year point, and there are expenditures still on the horizon. Number two, to the fully implemented where there is no cost associated, that may not be funding, but keep in mind, what's not captured in there is staff salaries and time. And so there might be something that is well underway, but that doesn't at a glance appear to have a dollar value, but it does in the sense of the time, effort, and commitment of the staff or of myself and Ms. Kuklinski. So I think that's a better way of looking at it. And if you had a very specific question on a particular item, I can certainly respond to that.
I just noticed it was a trend that came up in several different goals. So that's why I figured if I can understand the concept, then it's something I could explore more on my own as long
Right.
as I understand.
Right. So globally speaking, it is a way of us representing to the community, to the board, where things are in the process so that it's not as unclear, or that it's a little clearer, I should say. where we are in the process of implementing. So for example, this year our goal was to implement in grades 4 through 8 in Avid. We have done that. Does implementation means training staff? That's one layer of implementation. And then there's the reality of how does it work its way into every single day practice, right? So it's nuanced, but that's a way of starting to understand. Have you checked off that box? Have you done what you said you're going to do in that action? And in many instances, at this halfway mark, it is a partial implementation.
And then for any specific goals, if it's like a $0 amount because it's not additional funds, but it had a budgeted amount, we could still use it for another goal, or is it only for that goal?
No, we could use it for other purposes because sometimes our cost projections aren't accurate, or we underspend, or perhaps for valid reason
Other ones
overspend.
might go, oh.
Yes, and this is where you make adjustments and where we work with our business office to try to get that accomplished.
The budget is very organic, as a chief business official, I'm very mindful that there's ebbs and flows of the budget. And so when you adopt, that's what we think it's going to be. When we bring it back at the first interim, we make adjustments and changes as to what has happened to October 1st. And normally even into November, December, because we're still working on that budget. And then now at second interim, we're revising and making changes. And then again, an estimated actual. So it's always a moving target. And most likely the numbers that you're seeing in this report have changed already, just because we have to choose a specific snapshot time, and then we make adjustments as we move forward on a regular basis. I'm continually evaluating the budgets and communicating with Dr. Ramirez about that.
All right, anything else? That was all just discussion, correct? And so let's move on to item 11B, which is also discussion. The proposed playground structure replacement project. Dr. Ramirez.
Okay, so this is a topic of discussion that I just wanted to call out separately. And so please bear with me. More so than anything else, we brought to the board a number of times some ideas about the importance of and what could a replacement project could look like. So all of these things are components that the board has seen in the past that I wanted to just put all in one place. So you see, those are live links. So where you see the Mesa play structure, those are actual pictures of the play structure that is there now. It served us incredibly well, but it is reaching its end of cycle. We talked about the other reason for bringing this out separately is to also it responds to some questions, comments that came from the board in the January board meeting. So we talked about, or I have represented Play and Park Structures as a possible partner, and I wish to elaborate on that in just a moment. But you see the features under consideration, and features means components in a proposed new project. Okay. So in this next one, there's 3 different links. Just calling it option 1, 2, and then option 3 is the most updated rendering. So we'll get to that in just a second. The items that you see there are components and their projected cost based on equipment and installation. In the next slide, I have kind of a breakdown of what that could look like, but I want to respond to a couple of things specific to some board questions that came up. If you can click on just option 3, please. So these are graphics of what the playground structure, could look like. I think it's a fair representation, just based on the input that the Play and Park, or Park and Play, has received from us as staff, including some features that we had talked about months ago. So if you look, this one just has some features to it that are a little different, including like the actual surface. It's intended to be a very inclusive space, tiered with students being able to access different age groups, being able to access everything from what's accessible at the ground level all the way up to a couple of levels up, including multiple slides. Right now, as an example, we have 2. And then the one feature that's different on this one than ones that the board has seen in the past is that climbing wall, which allows kids to be able to grow, if you will, and access different points of it over time as they age and as they become older. One more, please. That's what that looks like, right? More specifically. Some of these features have been shown to the board in the past, but really what I wanted to speak on was not just the renderings, but really, looking for the board to support the project moving forward and to explain how we got to Park and Play and why it might actually be one of the best opportunities for us here in the next coming months to pursue. So if you can go back to the slide deck. All right. So right now, the estimated cost would be $382,000. That would include equipment and installation. Separate from that, and I'm going to go ahead and speak to this next. Can you go to the next slide, please? All right. So this is the process and the component parts. The project components really are, I'm breaking them down into three parts. One is design and manufacturing, which we'd be looking for Park and Play to undertake. The second one is groundwork, and that is the demolition of the existing structure as well as the preparation of the soil and base, the foundation. And lastly, the installation and surfacing, again, coming back to Park and Play. So the 2 components is what's inclusive of that 382 mark. The groundwork is something that we separately look to with a different vendor or a different contractor, I should say. And that estimate is down, we'll get to in just a moment. But I know that in the January meeting, we talked about why Park and Play. And I didn't share exactly why we came to, or I come to that recommendation, but I wanted to speak on that more fully. Linked in this one and in the agenda is a contract, if you will, for a national cooperative. And I'd like to have Ms. Peterson speak to that. But in effect, it allows us as a small school district to be able to leverage a larger network and a larger purchasing power for the purposes of securing, a possible replacement. So I'm just going to have Ms. Peterson speak to that. And then down below, I just represented some of the local districts or agencies that are partnered with Park and Play. But Mrs. Peterson.
As part of the purchasing contract, so we have what we call bid limits. And so in projects like this, because a playground is proprietary, so you have different designers, you have Park and Play, you have Dave Bang. There are several in the area that do this type of work. They all use what we call a piggyback instrument. So in this particular example, Park and Play is utilizing Omnia. And Omnia basically sponsors a nationwide bid, and various manufacturers participate, and they make commitments to various organizations, such as school districts. And for the Omnia contract in particular, it's roughly a 30% discount on any of the equipment purchases. There are hard costs involved in installing playground equipment, especially in the state of California, because we're required to pay prevailing wage. So the cost of the equipment is one thing, but when you dissect the quotes, the biggest portion is the labor piece of it. And that's basically controlled by prevailing wage. So all installers have to be paid prevailing wage. And we know that, in most cases, we're paying upwards of $100 an hour, for this type of installation type process, because they have to be certified and they, are on certain scales, just as any type of union labor would be.
So the reason for, in effect, I know that Mrs. Romero represented this, both in form of a question and comments around, bids and what that could look like. Well, in effect, that is what this entails on a large scale. And it would allow us as a small school district to capitalize on that broader reach. So you see the language there. That particular link leads to a number of other documents that, are there as supporting, evidence and supporting background. I know, just recently, and I won't endeavor into this too much, but, SOMAS, ran their own process almost a year ago now, because they did their construction over a playground structure of their own. And, in looking at some of the figures that Mrs. Peterson relayed to me by way of cost per square foot, the cost comparison for us in this proposal would be somewhere in the neighborhood of 2183 per square foot versus 2318, which is what SOMAS Union paid. So again, it speaks to, for us, the ability to be able to draw from our business office, from their background, as well as their work with other small school districts in a way that helps us secure a good process, a good contractor, a good vendor, and the best, most efficient price for what we're looking to accomplish. Next slide, please. So at this point, all of this is work that we're looking to entertain, but I wanted to bring it here to the board seeking support. So I'll get to the recommendation. It would be ideal to purchase and install this school year. And by this school year, I don't mean within the school year. I mean really as a summer project. We've talked about this, and I've represented to our business office, to Mrs. Peterson, that for us, even trying to capitalize on a spring break, it's just, it overextends us. And I think it creates, some challenges there that could spill over. And, it's not ideal. But we might be able to be in a good opportune time to pursue this project as a summer project to minimize the escalating costs, which I'm afraid to say only continue to grow for national and local reasons, and to be able to replace a piece of equipment, an important one, that I'm afraid to say needs to be replaced regardless, whether that's in a few months, in 18 months, 24 months, whatever that time period is. We have reached a point where it is best to be able to replace it wholesale. And so my recommendation is to enter an agreement with Play and Park where we can start this project and really look to get the wheels in motion in terms of securing our place in hiring the contractors and so on. The numbers that I represented are overall numbers. I do have an itemized proposal that I received recently that I can share with the board, so you can see by line item what that looks like. And if there's support for that, I can look to bring that forward at the March meeting for consideration and approval ultimately. But obviously want to hear from the board, want to hear some opinions, thoughts, feedback, so that we can, so that I can determine, what our next best steps are and where the board feels comfortable.
And so in terms of timing, what I'm hearing to secure the summer project, if we were to do this in the summer, we really should make a decision in the next meeting to lock in those contractors' projects so they can literally start manufacturing. So we'd be able to complete the entire project in the summer.
Correct. That would be the idea.
I was trying to write down those numbers. I don't know if I got it. The Plan Park, what's their average cost per square foot?
That's for the form type. It's a little over $21.
$21. It was like 21.83 is I think what I heard. Okay. And when Somas did this, they were paying roughly $28 a square foot. 23.
And that's
Okay.
for first square foot for the form price. So that's the rubberized surface underneath. It's hard to compare components because components are proprietary.
You can't do apples and apples.
You can't do apples to apples.
Right, every manufacturer might
That was
have
the
a similar
commonality at the
style.
time, Was the form.
I got that. What we can do is, what did, all said and done, how much did Somas pay roughly for theirs? And for approximately how many square feet? Because they went out on their own, correct? If I understood that correctly, they went out and did their own thing. And what we're looking to do here is going to be roughly the same.
So they spent. And they didn't have any construction work. It was an existing area. So the only thing that they needed to do, and they didn't do any curbing. They just basically removed the form place. Reinstalled the equipment and put the new structure or the new form place.
Got it?
So that cost was. Let me calculate. There's two different purchase orders.
$438,000.
438. Okay, and that's really with no minimal demolition costs and minimal installation cost for,
The installation costs, you still, it's more for the demo.
right.
And the pad preparation.
No, but we're looking at changing our footprint a little bit.
Right.
So-
We're having to do some site improvements. In
Right.
order to prepare for the pad.
So there, I'm just saying, Somas, theirs was roughly how large? And Dr. Ramirez, I'm coming to you next. What our proposal again, help me remember the square footage that we're looking at doing. And so I think one of the major concerns I heard previously is like, this is an astronomical amount. It is. It's more than what we're thinking about. What is this? Just a couple of swings, right? It's not the playground where I grew up on.
No, not.
Do we know how long it's guaranteed for too?
That was mentioned in the past. I think it's years.
I'll have to look into the warranty period.
How old is that one?
20,
20 years.
23 years.
Roughly, the third form fixed surface was 7,999 square feet.
So roughly 8,000 square feet. Is that a nice roundup? You know, fair roundup.
I'm trying to figure out this one. Give me a moment.
Okay.
Yes, this would come out of Measure O.
So it's important for the board to
Realize that, you know, we're always trying to stay ahead of as construction installation costs. We just recently had a job walk at Olive Lands, and there's a lot of concern among different contractors right now because of the potential tariffs on steel. That could have a direct impact on our future ability to purchase playground equipment because it's all going to be impacted. The cost of concrete has gone up 8% just in the last month or two. And as we're competing for materials like concrete, like steel, especially as they move to rebuild the housing, we're competing against them as well as for contractors. And so I think it's important that we are proactive in making a decision. It's not a question of if you're going to replace the equipment, it's when you're going to replace the equipment. And we're already seeing it failing. And that's where some of the concern is, because we experienced that at Muku is little by little they dismantled their playground structure because it wasn't safe, because you can no longer purchase replacement parts. And then, you know, we did a portable project, and then that allowed us then to install some of the new playground equipment.
So while you're looking for that, real quick, I just did some numbers, you know, like Somas's project specifically, amortized over 20 years, if that was the life of the equipment, and we're looking at about $1,825 a month, cost wise.
Question for that?
So, and what I'm seeing is that cost wise, from what's been proposed, is very similar to what Somas did by going out on their own. You know, we're going to be getting some things that we're taking advantage of the 30% discount. We may get more than what they have. I don't know.
They used a CMAS instrument for purchasing.
So they're very similar in comparison. It's just which equipment, which features do you like the best? Which?
Yeah, I got that.
I mean, I think, it seems like a large money for something that is play nice. So, kids, that's
It's important.
that's their place, and that's where they hang out. And, you know, I think making the environment they feel, you know, they learn better when they're happy with the place they're at. I mean, you know, Tammy does due diligence, and I think,
Yeah.
you know, I think the group purchasing, everything kind of says we need to do this. We've got pieces of parts that are yellow tagged already that we really can't even use. So, I think Dr. Munoz has done, you know, good job getting the idea there. I think as a board, we can, I think justify this to the second, you know, most very important part of the education process, you know, being able to enjoy their time in Ireland, so they go back and learn that thing about it. So, I'm in favor of supporting, you know, a couple other numbers that we need to get based on outside of the prep, some of the other things we might run into, but we always do, we didn't know this was under there, something like that. I know you've already looked into that, and everything has been clear. The board, I would say, I would recommend to go forward and get the proposal and bring it back to March. I think we can move forward to go forward. At least my support is fine.
And I do think the drawings that are represented in options, we have so many options. So there's multi-level, there's things that you can do at the ground level, there's things that you can do, you know, up in the tunnel or up on the stairs, there's monkey bars, there's climbing walls, there's climbing rings, there's more slides that we currently have at the school, you know, so, you know, and there's shade going on here as well. You know, I love spirits, so I love seeing those pop prints in that farm playground, right? So, they're so blue color, so I think there's a lot of thought and work that went into doing the design to meet the wider range of ages and types of kiddos that we have here. So, I mean, kudos to you guys, whoever was in charge of kind of helping the manufacturer to put these options together. Because I think you guys are trying to speak all of the different things into that.
One of the advantages of going to the playbook is they're very conscientious of the differentiation in play and making sure that it's ADA accessible, that all students can participate, that no one is singled out. And when you look at the playground that we install at Newfield, the one preparing to install at Olive Lands, that's one of the key focus areas that this particular company has, is making sure that all students have accessibility to the playground.
Very, very possible, because I know one of the things I was gonna do is, have the people that are gonna use it, give you some feedback about it. Move them to the next meeting, right, or one that, arrange with them, Saturday, play it. And make it something fun, or invite the kids to do it, I don't know what the, liability kind of thing is there, but allow the kids to go play with it and.
There's actually some.
There's Locker Park.
Yeah.
Locker Park.
Some of those.
I forget more like that.
Those Primeros,
Those
this
Primeros.
company did those Primeros at Camarillo and Joe was on.
We can arrange something like that, with some real kids to do that. Why is no kid sitting here playing with this? Because that doesn't intrigue them. So let's not put that on, they put it on their, maybe we can arrange something like that, and have fun and have some coffee, guys, didn't make it fun, but just let them, kind of decide what they want.
Can we make this happen within 3 weeks? Because we got to decide. If we're gonna do this, we got to.
So look, I think when it comes to the features and how we introduce this, I've been reticent to put this more broadly out to the community for this very reason. I didn't want to overstep where the board's understanding and comfort level happens to be. One of the things that we can do pretty readily here, start to put these renderings out to the community. I really believe that, and mind you, this is one rendering. There's a ton of them. There's some that I didn't even show the board because it was just not going to work. It wasn't Mesa. It wasn't what we wanted to do. I feel this is a good spirit and we can get some feedback off of that very quickly. To your point, Dr. Canby, about getting hands-on, right? Let me think that through. Right now I can't quite grasp that, but I think it would be helpful to point people in the direction of where we can feel and touch and install. It won't be this one, so that's the downside of that. But it would be an opportunity to be able to speak to something that can give a more firm impression.
And I will say I have gone to a park
Right.
and I have a 7th grader, but he'll still play on a playground. And I don't know all the other kids at the park or the school. But when you go to the park, you see the different ages playing and you see the younger kids playing hide and go seek at the lower level or playing with the things on that level while, somebody else might be doing floor is lava and being on the monkey bars and stuff like that. So, they're strangers, they're not our Mesa kids, but, trying to do that. It's been hard lately because of all the rain, but, going to the park and just seeing what kids like.
Well, to do what you want, Dr. Canby, probably the simplest thing is for us as board members and or staff and certificated to pick a day that we can go observe. Say like you have, that might be a staff meeting for a Wednesday afternoon where we go over to Pleasant Valley to the school where one of these is installed and we just watch the kids and see what they do. We don't have to take our kids over. We can just go watch the kids and see what they do. And we could interrogate them.
Well, you
Right.
have to realize that this playground's a bit different.
We got that.
And
But there's nothing wrong with saying, why are you using this feature and why aren't you using that one? And saying, well, nobody's using this feature and it's on our rendering, maybe we should leave that one off. Or everybody's using this feature and it's not on our rendering, maybe we should get that one. Right?
That was my thought behind that. Just get some input from the kids who are going to be using it. But
Right.
however we do it, whether we do observation or if we can arrange some kind of Saturday play day or something, that might be something kind of fun and just a community building thing also outside of that. So, but I think the big question is, do we support this going forward? And I think the answer is yes. So I would say, please go forward and proceed.
Okay, well, thank you. I appreciate that. And we got our work cut out for us, but it's going to be a fantastic project and Appreciate the vote of confidence and the support.
Okay, that's item B, discussion. Paper situation here. Okay, you have some direction, right?
Yes.
Item number next, which is 12, action discussion items. A, consideration of acceptance of the certification of the 2023-2024 annual report of audit of financial statements and supplementary information for fiscal year ending June 30th, 2024. Can I have a motion, please? In a second.
I'll second.
Any discussion? Tammy? It's good.
We're good.
Well, it shows
Yeah.
a decline. So our net position
Right.
is down about 9% and our general fund is down 16%. So just so that we're all aware, it's not horrible. We're in a spot where Tammy prepared us to be, but
Right,
we're in the spot where Tammy prepared us to be because we're on the decline.
right.
We're fine.
We're right on the path that we were put.
That, well,
Yeah.
that we knew was coming.
Right. No, I'm not saying it's bad.
Yeah.
Nothing was unanticipated, correct?
Thanks for telling for that.
Were there any unanticipated observations?
Yeah.
Okay. Any other questions or comments regarding this? All those in favor of accepting the certification of the 2023-2024 annual report of audit and financial statements and supplementary information for the fiscal year ending June 30th, 2024, say aye. Aye. Any opposed, say nay. That motion carries 5-0 in favor. Right. Item B, consideration of the acceptance of the Proposition 39 general obligation bonds measure of Measure O performance audit for the fiscal year ending June 30th, 2024. Can I get a motion for that one?
I so move.
And a second.
Second.
Okay, any discussions on this one?
All the expenditures were in line with the measure of.
Nothing out.
Nothing else.
That's correct.
And they audited 98% of the invoices. So it's pretty good.
That's a hefty amount. Okay, any other questions or comments? Hearing none, all those in favor of accepting the Prop 39 general obligation bonds measure O performance audit for the fiscal year ending June 30th, 2024, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, say nay. That motion carries 5-0 in favor. Item C, consideration of the approval of the 2024-2025 transportation plan. Can I get a motion, please?
I so move.
And a second.
Second.
Any discussion on this one?
This is a requirement that was placed upon school districts by the legislature about 2 years ago. As part of LCFF, there is a transportation component that is the last 2 years we've seen a COLA escalation of that amount. But we're now allowed to be reimbursed above and beyond 60% of our expenditures. And so to be eligible, you're required to update your transportation plan on an annual basis.
Does that include our new buses?
That's
All right. Any other questions or discussion? Hearing none. All those in favor of approving the 2024-2025 transportation plan, say aye. Aye. Any opposed, say nay. That motion carries 5-0 in favor. Item D, consideration of the approval of the agreement with the Foundation of California Community Colleges. May I get a motion? In a second.
Second.
Any discussion on this one?
Yes, Mr. Sullivan, I wanted to just make note that this is a partnership that we're looking to onboard very similar to the one that the high school district has in place. And we would be looking at curriculum and content specific to grades 6 through 8. And it's very new, so we're still working our way through it. But the goal would be to provide content for students to be able to work through, and their families, of course, to be able to understand what the community college systems in California entail and how to prepare well in advance of high school for those pathways. So we're still learning a lot about it, but the initial response has been very positive. And as a parent of a high school student myself, several board members are also. I think there's benefit for us to pursue.
Is there a financial component to this?
There isn't. There's no cost to this. It's free of cost to California Public Schools.
Any other questions? Comments? Hearing none. All those in favor of approving the agreement with the Foundation for California Community Colleges, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, say nay. That motion carries 5-0 in favor. Item E, consideration of the approval of resolution 24-25-05, authorizing the filing of the application for the State Allocation Board administered programs. May I get a motion
So move.
and a second? And questions or comments?
Yes, so this resolution is really intended to finalize the application to the state on behalf of Mesa Union School District. It's actually an application that began in late 2023 that has been provisionally accepted in meeting the criteria. And it's for bond projects that have already been completed. The initial estimate was anywhere that the district would be eligible anywhere between 1.8 and 1.9 million in reimbursement. This allows us to be able to have our place in line, if you will. The encouraging, while I can't make any commitment or promise that it will result in actual funding, what I can say is that with the passage of a recent state bond, there's an allocation of approximately 700 million that has been earmarked for small school districts specifically. So for us, that actually increases our odds, certainly more favorable to us. And this would allow us as a school district to complete our application. All of the components have been completed. I revisited that with SchoolWorks, with whom we have this agreement a couple of years standing now. And we should then be able to get a state application number as a result of this completion.
Okay. There's a potential. It's promising.
It allows us to put ourselves firmly in line.
Right. Okay. Any other comments or questions? Hearing none, all those in favor of approving resolution 24-25-05, authorizing the filing of application for the State Allocation Board administered program, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, say nay. That motion carries 5-0 in favor. Item F, consideration of the ratification of the invoice from the Acorn newspapers. May I have a motion?
So. Second.
Okay, it's been moved and seconded by Dr. Canby and Trustee Hub to ratify the invoice for the Acorn newspapers, which we saw a sample of that ad. Any questions or comments?
Do we have a,
It's a 13-week ad in 2 publications, the Acorn and the BC Reporter. No, and not for, we haven't actually had anything in print over the last 2 years. I think this is just another avenue to be able to promote our program. Shared previously just where we are in the county in terms of declining enrollment. We've received some anecdotally favorable responses. The thinking on this is that if it results in even 2 students coming directly by way of these advertisements to Mesa, it effectively pays for itself. So that's the conversation that has existed between Mrs. Peterson and I. We're going to monitor that. And if it doesn't result in favorable results, then that'll be something we'll discontinue or scale back moving forward. But right now, it's our way of putting our best foot forward and publicizing advertising to the local community, including district proper. That's something that we're available to partner with them on their kids' education.
Yeah, I mean, that would be basically was going to be my question on, how we determined how much money made sense. So it sounds like we thought about on a per student basis. Because it's not like we have a budget for advertising, right? I mean, I don't think we do. So that was my question is how did we arrive at the extent at which we wanted to?
Yeah, it was a combination of, as I mentioned, the enrollment potential and the number, or the numbers that it would yield to be cost effective. Beyond that, it was also contingent on pricing and where we might be able to get a better arrangement, if you will, of maximizing our footprint in the publications and a good runtime. So again, it is a bolder proposal, to be sure, than what we've done in the past. But I think one that we don't have too many other avenues for advertisement that come with a cost. Most of it is largely social media, which has been very effective for us. And of course, the biggest one continues to be word of mouth, right? Relationships and that sort of thing. But this is a step in a different direction, pretty bold. And if you look at those publications, and some of you might be familiar with them, it's fairly commonplace for some other charters, school districts to run similar ads. So if it works for us, it works for us. If it doesn't, I can commit to it being a practice that we either A, discontinue, or B, scale back in a significant way.
Frankly, that is something really huge to respond to that and make it a cost effective kind of problem.
And as a result of this, it's implied that we are asking the students as they apply to come to school here, what has been their top 2 or 3 motivators for coming, or how did they hear about us?
Yeah, I'm not counting any of them that are siblings.
Right.
So there are some ways that we can rule out pretty quickly. But I can tell you, at least in some of the recent 2 to name, to be specific, school tours, where there are multiple siblings, they did cite a desire to visit the school, at least in part, by what they saw.
Okay. Any other comments or questions? Hearing none, all those in favor of ratifying the invoice for the Acorn newspapers, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, say nay. That motion carries 5-0 in favor. Item G, consideration of approval of the Infinity Category 2 RFP and E-rate application. Can I get a motion?
Some
In a second. Discussion.
Can we walk through what these rates are effectively, especially because I was confused by the timing. It looked like they were for right now, but effective February, but then it said it expires in 1 year in June. So I was confused on what we're getting.
So this is just a preliminary agreement to pursue the funding. Along with this, we're working on a plan for an actual vendor or a contractor to actually propose on the work. So my write-up entails that piece or the potential for what that work will entail. We have a balance of about approximately 49,000 based on an E-rate allocation. We'd be eligible for a 70%, for 70% of that to come from E-rate and 30% coming from district funds. But to come back to this, we'd have to enter into agreement before the end of this coming month, and we'd have some time to be able to conduct the work.
So then for that E-rate, for example, we'd be paying $1,700 for the evaluation to potentially get that rebate of like 35.
Which part are you identifying?
So there's
Two, because there's the RFP, which is $2,500, and there's the E-rate fees, which are like $1,750,
Oh, right.
right? So I'm saying that those are the fees we're paying for what you're saying is then working with the eligibility for those E-rate programs and discounts.
Yes, we partner with Infinity to basically undertake the application process on our behalf.
Any other questions or comments? Hearing none, all those in favor of approving the Infinity Category 2 RFP and E-rate application, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, say nay. That motion carries 5-0 in favor. Item H, consideration of approval of the 25-26 academic calendar. Can I get a motion? And a second?
I'll second.
Any comments or questions?
Yes, so the calendar is here. I just wanted to walk the board through a few milestone dates. Our first day of school would be August 19th. That would be the proposed start. I also want to actually, before I even get to the content, it is differently laid out, which I feel is a little bit more clear to understand and navigate. And thank you very much to Mrs. Torres for putting that together. But coming back to the milestone dates, the 19th would be the first day of school. Fall break would happen from the 24th through the 28th. Winter break would be 19th through the 5th inclusive. And then the biggest change and where there was community input put out, I've done this now multiple years to provide some input on the calendar from community, and it's listed there, would be spring break. So the spring break period under this proposed calendar would go from 10 days to 6. And I just want to walk the board through that. First, let's talk a little bit about the input process. There was a community being staff, certificated classified, and families and parents. The 2-week spring break has been a staple, for a number of years. So this would represent a change, but I want to really focus on the reasoning why. First and foremost, we have well over 230 participants, and although it wasn't overwhelming, it was viewed as more favorable to shorten the spring break period, but in favor of ending one full week sooner. That actually is helpful to us, or to some of our families, quite a few in fact, that live in 2 calendars, in Oxnard Union's calendar and our own. Oxnard Union ends the school year on June 3rd, 2026. Mesa would end that Friday, June 5th. Also, with that consolidation, there would be still opportunity for our students, and we have the last several years cohorts of about 30 or so students in 8th grade participating in an East Coast trip. Obviously, those plans are well in advance, but traditionally that has happened from Saturday through Thursday. This would allow for another day, right, in the lead up for that transition and that travel, with that Friday being an off day. That would go through Thursday and then still allow a few more days on the back end as well. on a more personal note, and the calendar won't reflect this, or the input won't reflect this. I think when we talk about learning continuity, those 2 weeks are, from a learning standpoint, challenging to be able to come back and end that year as strong as we otherwise could. There's that break definitely for some families is challenging. I think we've always known that. And particularly for some students, that learning continuity is, in my eyes, at least, interrupted somehow, heading into that spring break. This would still allow us to have a fairly meaningful break, but would allow us to end that year and heading into CAS testing, to be able to take full advantage of that last month as we head off into the end of the school year. So a couple of different reasons for that. Try to represent where the input was. Our staff, not as overwhelmingly as in past years. There was more favorability, but needless to say, the ones who did provide their input still continue to be very favorable in terms of the 2 weeks. And that's why we wanted to add that additional day for anybody who wants to travel during that time period. They can still do that. And of course, they'd be ending the school year early, so any summer travel plans would be part of that as well.
Any questions or comments?
Is that the week that other school districts are also taking for spring break? Because we take 2 weeks.
Correct.
And so, but.
It would match up with Oxnard.
That's what I was
It would align with Oxnard Union. It would align with not all school districts. The one that I at least most pay attention to is Oxnard Union, simply because of the family dynamics with that. But it would align. That full week would align with Oxnard Union, as would our winter and a few of the holidays, inclusive of the fall break.
But I just mean for those of us that might be on East Coast trip, we would be on East Coast for Easter.
I believe so, because it would straddle that first
Yeah, so that's what I'm
weekend.
saying, like it is.
Cherry
Easter
blossoms.
Sunday would be when, like ABC or.
Correct,
No.
correct. Assuming that that Saturday to Thursday holds true, that would be, yes, correct.
Interesting. I have 2 questions. Go ahead,
I'm
Dr. Canby.
completely in alignment, starting to be still a week later.
Correct, yes.
So you try to balance it during the winter.
Correct. There's additional times, including, and of course,
Have a ski
that
weekend.
additional week in
February.
February, right, which we would not have, right, which is this week, correct. So those of us who have kids at the high school district, our kids right now are on vacation, and so that is, you know, that in years prior was not viewed as favorable in this community. But when the question was posed about shortening the school calendar, that was viewed more favorable.
I have 2 questions. One is for Tammy. Does this impact P2? Does
Well-
P2 fall in before or after or in the middle of spring break?
Is the last full school month before April 15th. So basically, once I have this approved, we go back and we map out our school months, and the school month consists of 4 weeks. And so depending on how winter break is, we move it however we need to move it.
Okay,
So most likely P2 will end on April 3rd prior to,
prior to the break.
just depending on how the school months. So now that we have that, I can map out.
I appreciate that you contacted many different parts of the community. And my other thing was, I'm assuming that there's kind of a 50-40 split is what I saw. 10% didn't care. You know, the impact on what that would have on a family, having their kids out for 2 weeks in daycare if they have a 2-parent working family, how that was impacted or not, or is that significant?
I mean, anecdotal. I mean, some comments did come across, and we're going to live it
Right,
in this coming spring break.
right.
So difficult to say, and you know, with decisions like this, It's not, I don't want to minimize a 40% of our population, right? Or the feelings and opinions of our staff. That is why we wanted to look at it not just as 5 days, which is one full week, but rather adding that additional day in order to help us transition.
Right.
So that was done with a direct idea that we were going to acknowledge that it was a change in practice, and for some or many in our community, it was going to be experienced as a loss, right? So that's a way of trying to acknowledge that, and at the same time situate the calendar so that it makes sense for us from a learning perspective.
Right. Any other questions, comments, or concerns? Hearing none, all those in favor of approving the 2025-2026 academic calendar, say aye. Aye. Any opposed, say nay. That motion carries 5-0 in favor. Next is item I, consideration of approval of the 7th grade field trip to the UC Santa Barbara Research and Experience Education Facility, aka REEF. Do I have a motion?
I'll second.
I'm excited for this one. This has Ms. Blaine's hands off,
Yes, it just touches on so many things that very much just incredibly appreciated to Mrs. Spillane and others that have helped. But she has definitely been a staunch supporter of REEF and UCSB for years.
Yeah.
This is a part of the oceanography elective, and she's just always looking for opportunity. Miss Inda has stepped in there to continue to help with the college outreach, which is this can be a part of that. But needless to say, I think our science program is exceptional, full of hands-on and experiential learning opportunities, which you'll see in just a moment. And I'm very thankful for Mrs. Spillane for always making that a priority.
And I can say firsthand, I've been on this field trip, and what is great is they do hands-on, touch tanks. They walk around the cliffs and they talk about erosion. And I can tell you that I have then heard students in another setting reference something from that field trip. So, like the ice plan and how it's horrible for erosion on the cliffs, like doing a beach cleanup with kids and them going, oh, this is here too. We learned about this in Santa Barbara. Like, I have been in those conversations where I said, oh, good, they were listening in that field trip. They learned something from that field trip. And it was fun. I mean, it's Santa Barbara. Who doesn't love UCSB?
Right.
But in separate conversations, more than a year later, those type of items have come up.
That's great. Any other comments or questions? Hearing none, all those in favor of approving the 7th grade field trip request to UC Santa Barbara Research Experience and Education Facility, say aye. Aye. Any opposed, say nay. That was an aye, Sandra?
Aye, yes.
Okay. That motion carries 5-0 in favor. Item J, consideration of approval of the 7th grade field trip request to Hueneme Beach and Sumas Creek as part of the Citizen Scientist activities through the Merito Foundation. There's one for February 21st, which is Friday, and March 14th.
I move to approve both 7th grade field trips to Hueneme Beach and Sumas Creek, so I say that as a part of the Citizen Scientist activities through the Merito Foundation.
I'll second.
Any discussion?
I wanted to make a point out of the partnership with the Merito Foundation and the fact that the Merito Foundation is giving us a $500 grant and a little bit more just to make this a real viable part of our curriculum. So again, hands-on learning in the community, a biodiverse county like this one with many, many different ecosystems. And this is just an opportunity to be out there learning with a phenomenal foundation like Merito that is well known in this community.
Fantastic. Anything else? Hearing none, All those in favor of approving the seventh grade field trips to Wainimi Beach and Sumas Creek on February 21st and March the 14th, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, say nay. That motion carries 5-0 in favor. Item K, consideration of the adoption of the board policies and revisions as outlined. Can I get a motion? A second?
Second.
Any discussion?
There are a
Optional
few that
choices.
we need to make option selections.
Um,
3,100 is the budget. And it was being recommended to us to choose option 3. And what this was about is who kind of is the committee for the budget, and option 3 was board members. So, you know, we could also choose that the superintendent chooses people in the community and the staff, or that we choose people in the community and the staff. Or the third option is that we take it as our responsibility to kind of, you know, oversee the budget and go through that. So option 3 is what we're currently at. So it makes sense to me to continue.
Everybody in concurrence there for option 3 for AR 3100? Okay. Am I over?
I did have a question on the next one.
5148 Am I overlooking any others besides 5148-2? Is there anything in between? 1250? Yeah. Yeah, 5148.2. Recommended option 2 for both the BP and the AR.
I guess I just wanted to make sure, because right now, it seems more like we would be in option 1 because we are not charging fees for after school programs. So I guess I was just wondering if you were suggesting to choose 2 because it's may charge for after school, just in case at some point we would want to cover some amount of cost.
That's all. That's all it
For
is.
flexibility.
It allows the district to be able to move in that direction, and establish now or in the future a fee-based program, which, you know, that's all it is. And we have no intention of changing that practice at the moment, but allows us the discretion to do so if need be.
I asked a question, and I should have done it ahead of time. But I noticed that there was independent study requirements, so that's the 6158. And I guess I wanted to get a sense of how that's really different than current. But it talked about how there, you know, if it's 16 days or more, that we have to be able to provide daily live interactions or weekly sync depending on the grade levels. So is that something that's significantly different than the current practice for independent study? Like, is it the number of days that changed from something else to 16, or is it the live interaction part?
The live interaction has actually been something that has happened since the pandemic. There have been changes done to the 15 and under. In other words, there used to be a minimum of 5 days that has been removed, and the component it asserts what has been the practice over the last several years, or an independent study beyond the 15 days, 16 days and on. And that actually, for us, is very, very, there just aren't very many instances of that occurring, unless it's with some very specific conditions and circumstances.
Okay, I want to come back to the 5148.2. Are we in concurrence that option 2 is going to be what we're going to go with?
And there's 2 different ones. Right, so.
Oh, says for both BP and the AR. But
you're
I understand.
under option 2 are the same. So under the board policy, that's the after school in charge,
May.
charge. But the regulation is not unequal students. And the ELO, if the option one is, if you have more than 75%, it is the ELO to whole students, but option two is only ELO to all students. So it's the same number of regulation also.
Correct. And the reason for that is because our numbers don't reach the 75% threshold to even qualify for one. And two, it would basically intend to safeguard that students who do qualify, the numbers that we do, would receive some measure of priority with the program, which is
So that
Actually,
option two is
the
preferred as well.
option two, to Mrs. Striden's
They're
point.
different.
It's for different rationale and different
Right.
reasoning, but it would apply to both AR and BP. Or that's at least my recommendation.
Do we concur on the AR?
I
Okay. Anything else that needs to be brought up? Pardon me? All right. Hearing nothing else here, all those in favor of adopting the December 2024 board policy revisions, which include in AR 3100 option 3 and AR 5142.2 option 2 and BP 5148.2 option 2. All those in favor of approving that, say aye. Aye. Any opposed, say nay. That motion carries 5-0 in favor. And let's see. I think that goes here. This comes here. What?
next March is the Monday. That's Monday.
Well, item for next is the LCAP. And the next one is on a Monday, that has just been pointed out. That we're going to meet on Monday, March the 10th.
Right.
Make sure everybody remembers that, Monday, March the 10th. And that's right. So, and the meeting after that will be April 22nd. With that, we'll stand adjourned at 9:05. Thank you. It's good to have you.